Namaste, everyone, and welcome to today's explainer. Look, today we're doing something a little different. We're going to deconstruct a tiny 30-word text message. Just 30 words. But man, it carries the absolute weight of an entire lifetime and captures a person at their absolute most vulnerable. We're going to explore the anatomy of a literal cry for help that completely went unheard.
So I want you to read this text with me. माँ मैं थक गया हूँ. मुझे नहीं लगता मैं कुछ बन पाऊंगा. Message sent. Seen but no reply. वो रात भर रोता रहा और decide कर लिया कल सब कुछ छोड़ देगा. Just let that sink in for a second. In this incredibly short, raw narrative, a message of just complete, ultimate exhaustion that gets left on read, leading to a tragic final decision, there is a devastating reality. And honestly, it's become way too common in our hyper-connected digital world. Okay, let's dive into this. Part 1. Ek dard bhara sandesh, the anatomy of a breakdown. Right at the start, we have this opening line, Ma, main thak gaya hoon, which means, Mother, I am tired. And look, we're not talking about just being physically sleepy after a long day at the office. No, this is profound. This is an emotional, mental burnout that literally reaches down to the soul. And notice exactly who this message is directed to, the mother. The ultimate caregiver. You know, when we are completely defeated, our rawest, most desperate cry for help instinctively goes straight to the source of unconditional love. But then, in the very next breath, that exhaustion violently shifts into a devastating loss of self-belief. They write, "Mujhe nahi lagta main kuch ban paunga," translating to, "I don't think I'll become anything." This right here reveals a terrifying psychological state. It connects their burnout directly to immense career pressures and this overwhelming fear of failure. The sender hasn't just given up hope of moving forward, they've actually lost hope in their own identity. So if you look at it, there's this direct, almost step-by-step pipeline from feeling tired to losing yourself entirely. It starts with that exhaustion, I am tired. And that prolonged heavy fatigue, it completely blurs any vision of a future, which leads directly to that second step, complete hopelessness. I don't think I'll become anything. It's crucial to understand this isn't just some sudden, random thought. It's the direct consequence of chronic, untreated burnout. Part 2. Seen but no reply. The digital divide. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the incredibly harsh contrast. On the left, we have message sent, which is this desperate outward action, right? It's someone gathering every last ounce of courage to actually reach out and ask for help. But then, on the other end, seen but no reply. Just a cold, crushing void. In our digital world, seeing that little read receipt pop up followed by just prolonged silence, it can honestly hurt more than having a door slammed right in your face. Really think about the absolute devastating weight of a silent read receipt. Imagine pouring your entire heart into a text at your absolute lowest, most vulnerable moment. Total silence doesn't just ignore that vulnerability, it actively amplifies it. It takes a plea for help and transforms it into agonizing isolation, leaving the sender feeling completely invisible. Part 3. Akelepan ki raat. Left alone in the dark. वो रात भर रोता रहा, meaning he cried all night. That total silence from the other end completely solidifies his despair. Because think about it. During the day we have distractions, right? But in the dead quiet of the night, when you're desperately waiting and no reply ever comes, you are left entirely alone with your darkest thoughts. It's like falling continuously in the dark with absolutely zero safety net. I want to walk you through exactly how quickly this all escalates over the course of just a single night. First, a desperate message is sent. Second, it's seen but completely ignored. Third, that agonizing digital silence forces a long, lonely night of tears. And fourth, it finally ends in a tragic decision. With every passing hour, without any sort of intervention, the situation becomes more fatal. Which brings us to part 4, Aakhri Faisla, the point of no return. The narrative then hits us with, "Aur decide kar liya," and decided. Guys, these are just 3 words, but they carry this cold, resolute certainty. The entire narrative shifts here. He's moved away from the passive suffering of just being tired and stepped right into an active tragedy. When the tears finally run dry, a person hits this absolute limit, where a final decision is made. And then, kal sab kuch chhod dega. Tomorrow, he will leave everything. This right here is an absolute, devastating surrender. It's the final tragic result of that initial exhaustion, the unanswered message, and that terrifyingly lonely night. You see, when burnout is met with nothing but silence, the mind just falls into this deep abyss, and it literally stops seeing any other options. So let's be clear, this wasn't just some sudden, unexplainable event. Tragically, it was built in steps. First, there was exhaustion. Then, when that exhaustion was bravely voiced, it was met with isolation and silence, which only amplified the pain. And finally, it resulted in complete surrender. The tragedy was locked in the exact moment that desperate exhaustion collided with absolute silence. So, I want to leave you with this. What actually happens when a desperate cry for help is left unseen? Think about the people in your own life. Think about your own digital communications. We forget sometimes, but right behind those screens are living, breathing, and sometimes deeply, deeply fragile human beings. A simple, timely reply, even just a short text saying, "Hey, I'm listening," might just be enough to change someone's decision to leave everything behind tomorrow.